What's up you guys, it's Joelle and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm starting a new series on my channel that I wanted to start for quite a while. I'm going to be calling it The Best Life. And this was inspired by Amy Vagabond's The AM with Amy, where it's basically like a get ready with me kind of situation. But she also just talks. She talks about things that she's interested in and stuff that she's been thinking about lately, and can address topics that you guys request and stuff like that. So I wanted a format where I could combine my love for beauty and makeup and all of that with just the deeper things, because for all of you makeup lovers, I know that there is a lot of multidimensionality behind what goes on your face. So I just wanted to provide a space for that here on YouTube, since I feel like a lot of times, you know, beauty gurus can kind of get relegated to only doing, you know, beauty, because of course that's what they're good at. But I personally love hearing about what people are thinking about and just what's going on between their ears behind all of the stuff that is just seen on camera. The title of the series, The Best Life, is inspired by a verse out of Proverbs 3 that I love. It's verses 3 to 4-ish. And from the Passion Translation, it reads, "Let your life be shaped by integrity with truth written upon your heart. That's how you'll find favor and understanding with both God and men, and you will gain the reputation of living life well." And personally, that is something that I would love, is to be known for living life well. And so a lot of the topics that I'm going to be discussing in this series are just, you know, the everyday topics of being a human on this planet and figuring out how to live our best lives. So for my first episode, I decided to really pay tribute to Amy and do her Asian American tag, which she started this past spring, I want to say. So I'm going to be answering her questions as I get ready, and I'll have people tagged down below. But if you make YouTube videos and are interested in doing this tag, I invite anyone watching to answer the questions as well. Starting with my face, I actually already put on sunscreen and BB cream and moisturizer today, so I'm just going to get on into eyes. I'm going to be putting on my NYX eyeshadow base to get started. And her first question is, what ethnicity are you? And I am Chinese Korean American. My mom is Chinese, my dad is Korean. For eyeshadow, I'm getting into my Too Faced Just Peachy Mattes palette that my sister Micah got me. Thank you very much, Micah. And this is gonna be just a really summery, everyday peachy look. So I'm using Peach Tea. I'm gonna use that all over my lid. And the next question is, what generation are you? And I am technically second generation. My dad moved to the States from Seoul, Korea when he was 6, but since he grew up in the States, he's considered like first generation American, I believe. I don't know, correct me on that if I'm wrong. And my mom is also first generation because she was born in the States, because her parents moved here from China when they were around college aged. Next, I'm gonna get into Peach Punch, and I'm gonna put this on the outer half of my lids. Okay, question number 3 is, what is the first experience where you felt the demarcation of being a minority or different? And I would say I knew all along that I was considered a minority, because my parents would mention it when they talked about why we settled down in San Francisco, was that my mom wanted us to grow up in a place where we wouldn't really have to experience as much racism growing up. I think I really felt it regarding to my, like specifically regarding to my race in high school. I went to the same elementary school from like 2nd grade to 8th grade, but when I went into high school, that was when I was, you know, kind of cognizant enough and I was gonna be around new people. And my sister had already begun at that high school, and she was telling me about like the social groups and how there was like, how people would self-segregate, and there is like a group of the cool Asians and then the nerdy Asians, literally like Mean Girls. And I was like, well, how do I get to be with like the cool Asians? Like, what's the difference between being a cool Asian and a nerdy Asian? Like, I don't really know what that means. And she's like, well, like the nerdy Asians are like kind of quiet, they're like pretty book smart and just keep to themselves. And with that, I just got super self-conscious as I began to start at high school, because I was like, oh no, people are just gonna take one look at me and they're gonna be like, she's a nerdy Asian. Because I was nerdy. I was very nerdy in middle school. And I just felt like people were going to pinpoint me from the very beginning as being super quiet and never give me the chance to become one of their friends. And I choose this moment rather than, you know, that moment in middle school when someone makes fun of my lunch or something, because I honestly don't think I really put it together that it was because my food was different or like I was minority that they were laughing. I was just like, well, that's weird. You don't like good food, but like whatever. But I think it's because I was so lucky to grow up in such a diverse place, was that I was with a lot, like I literally went to middle school in downtown Chinatown of San Francisco. So like sure, people could be rude and be like, oh my gosh, ew, like, what is that? It was literally mandu or pot stickers. You can buy them at Costco, like, come on. I literally saw it as their problem, not mine. And I was like, okay, I'm sorry, like, I'll try to make it smell less, but I'm still gonna eat it because, like, you live in San Francisco, how can you be like this? But yeah, I mean, just to follow up with like the high school thing, thankfully after I got to high school, I was like super extroverted. I was like the most talkative, like funny, silly, bubbly person I could possibly be, so that people wouldn't immediately pinpoint me as like a quiet Asian. And like in a weird, sad way, to be honest, it worked. Like people liked me, they didn't see me and like relegate me to the group of like quiet Asian girls. But I realized later on that I was like, why am I being like this? Like of course, like I wanted to be close with everyone and I wanted to be friendly, but I realized it was coming out of a place of insecurity, of being, you know, stereotyped incorrectly rather than just being my like true authentic self. And then throughout the rest of high school, from like junior to senior year, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna be friendly, but I can just be myself and relax, and I don't need to feel like I'm compensating. So in a weird way, I wasn't changing so much what I was doing, but it was coming from a different motivation of being authentic and being a good person rather than trying to make people see me a certain way. And it was so much healthier and I was so much less exhausted. And yeah, I was so thankful that I came to that revelation. Oh, another thing that I would do in high school though was that I would starting freshman year when I was super insecure, was that I would always make Asian jokes about myself before someone else could. Like I would assume that if I was talking about my grades or that I played piano, I'd be like, oh yeah, you know, because I'm Asian, so like we just do that. And it wasn't until one of my friends who's half Chinese pointed out, and he was like, Joelle, like, why do you always point it to being Asian? Like, you know, people aren't always gonna assume that you're doing these things because you're Asian. And it really took him calling me out to be like, oh wow, like I'm internalizing it. Like this is internalized racism. Like I am so afraid of someone making fun of me that I feel the need to make fun of myself and call myself out for being Asian as if it's a bad thing so that they don't have to do it first. And after that, I was like, I need to stop. And that was a really good wake-up call. So Adam, if you ever see this, love you, dude. Thank you. So I put the pink on my lower lash line, upper lash line, and I think I'm just gonna take peach sangria and use a little bit of it to deepen up the outer corner. But next question is, were you always proud of your heritage, or was there a time where you rejected it? And I would say that time in high school when I felt like I am a classic model minority, which is a myth. For anyone who hasn't seen Amy's video on this, go watch it to learn about the model minority myths. I felt like I needed to compensate for me being Asian. Even though I shouldn't have seen it as a weakness, I did, and that was super unhealthy. And I didn't necessarily want to reject it. I would still do what I was naturally going to do, but I felt like I had to be okay with like taking a hit for it, almost like socially, that people look down on me, when really I shouldn't have expected that. That's just not the reality that we should live with and internalize. Question number 5, what are some stereotypes you struggle with? I would say that I struggle a lot less now with stereotypes. I think one thing I do still kind of struggle with is like being compared with other Asian girls. Like I think going to a predominantly white college, it's really easy for like Asian girls to be, you know, kind of held up next to each other, especially if they have similar interests and whatnot, and just being like, okay, who's like the superior Asian girl or who's the prettier Asian girl? And I definitely struggled with that, especially in my sophomore year, where I felt like after rushing and enjoying a sorority, like I felt like that was, you know, augmented just me being compared to other Asian girls because there was like some sort of quota that Greek houses were trying to fit, because Greek houses can be racist. But I think I've gotten over that a lot, especially after taking a gap year, which you can hear all about in my gap year vlogs. So this is really messy, as you can tell, but I'm gonna blend it out with a blending brush, and that makes everything better. But going back to the stereotypes thing, when I was younger, I definitely struggled with being like the goody two shoes a lot, and I felt really self-conscious in like middle school that like, I don't know, I was just so nerdy and I did everything right, and I felt like it was a bad thing. And I felt like people were gonna call me out for it because I was Asian, and instead of giving me credit for it and being like, wow, that's really impressive that you can like play piano and you get good grades and all of that, they would just be like, well, it's just because you're Asian. And I was so annoyed that I was not getting credit for hard work because it was being just thrown on my race. And that actually connects to the model minority myth that Asians are, you know, somehow genetically good at things, and it really discredits a lot of Asians for what they've done and what they've contributed to society, and also is really good at causing division between minorities when there should not be any, and it's really good for causing division between Asians when they feel like they don't fit into that model minority myth and they feel like they failed in some way. Next, I'm gonna take a little bit of Peaches and Cream and just throw that on the center of my lids. And next, to line my eyes, I'm gonna use Milk Makeup's shadow liner in the shade VP. It's just a brown color. Question number 6 is, can you speak your language? So for me, that would be Chinese or Cantonese. And Korean, I cannot, unfortunately, which is something that I'm really sad about. But I've been trying to learn Korean this past year a little bit. I went on a missions trip to Korea and I picked up some words and I can kind of like read a little bit in Hangul, but I'm really bad at it. But my boyfriend's Korean and he helps me out try to learn a few words. Question number 7 is, has being Asian American affected your relationship with your parents? And I think it definitely affected it a little more when I was younger. My mom wasn't a legit tiger mom, but she was a little tiger momish. You know, definitely whipped us into shape, but I was honestly very thankful for it. Like I said, I was a goody two-shoes kid. My parents are both first generation and grew up in the States and can speak perfect English, and I'm really thankful for that we never had communication issues. But definitely, you know, generational values that they grew up with were a lot harsher and more strict than what we see as Americans. We were just like, no other family or no other kids have to follow these kinds of rules for like doing the next year's math over the summer before the school year, or just strictness in how we had to dress and stuff like that. But at the same time, I think I'm really thankful that I saw the value in everything my parents did and wanted us to do. And also my family is very strongly Christian, and I think that really helped. Interestingly, my parents got less strict as they became more Christian because the stuff that they wanted us to focus on became very different. So rather than being so concerned about math and reading and scores and stuff, they're like, okay, we want you to be happy. We want you to grow up loving God and knowing your identity and knowing that you're valued. So we're gonna focus on that, and that was honestly so helpful for my relationship with my parents, and I'm so thankful for it. On the other hand, growing up Asian American has definitely made my relationship with my grandparents and extended family very interesting, especially my grandparents, just like a lot of different values. I know there's a lot of racism also especially in Korean culture. I know that's obviously not true of all Koreans, but it's just like a thing. There's a lot of pride in like your nationality, which is awesome, but also it can result in like discrimination against people who are not Korean. So as a half Chinese, half Korean family, that obviously can cause some issues, as you can imagine. My trip to Korea was honestly like super healing of that, and I feel like God just like did a lot in my heart that trip to like give me empathy and show where they're coming from, and also show that it's like something that like they grew up with just historically through wars, through whatever. And it's also gotten a lot better where they don't openly show as much discrimination towards Chinese people, so that's good. Question number 8 is, how do you feel about your heritage now? Do you identify with it? And I would say I've definitely throughout high school and college grown to be a lot more vocal about like my Asian pride, I guess. I've learned a lot more about specifically what it means to be Chinese or Korean American through friends and through just life, education, and growing up and realizing that it's something so valuable to hold on to. I also feel like my relationship with God has also helped me to really just acknowledge the fact that I was made intentionally. Like me being half Chinese, half Korean was by God's design, and that I should look for the strengths in that, which to me is I have the opportunity to help represent and help elevate people of color and other Asian American girls, help push the Asian American representation forward through media, through education, and whatever. And though it can definitely be seen as like a burden, I'm like, you know what, like if that is something God's called me to, I'm gonna take it and run with it. Sorry, I totally just stopped telling you guys what I'm doing, but next I'm gonna contour with my Too Faced Cocoa Contour Palette. And Amy's last question, number 9, is, what is your favorite thing about being Asian American / your heritage? I would say I love that I feel like I have something to bring to the table. I love that I have a family with a history, and I love the values of Asian culture, of working hard, and those are things that are kind of often lost in Western culture. I love the art and aesthetics of Asian culture, both Chinese and Korean. I love the food, both Chinese and Korean. I don't know, I feel like it gives me something about myself that provides community in a really beautiful way, just, you know, uniting with other Asian Americans, and also just something to protect as I get older, since America is this amazing, wonderful melting pot of cultures, but there's also like the integrity of it that I've started to learn the value of as we become a culture of, like, you know, the mixing pot and whatever, that it's really important to see the distinction and hold on to the history of what it means to be Korean American or Chinese American. And I'm actually gonna answer one bonus question because I get this question a lot, and that is, do you feel more Chinese or more Korean, having grown up as, you know, a mixed Chinese Korean American? As I'm putting on this blush from, what is this from? The Face Shop. It's just a really peachy blush to do with our peachy makeup look. And I actually personally, so I grew up in San Francisco. So there's a huge Chinese population. And so I grew up with a lot more Chinese culture. I was also largely raised by my mom, who is Chinese. My dad worked a lot, and that's not to say that he wasn't present in my life, but like the value systems and like the ways of thinking, the food that my mom prepared was largely Chinese. So I feel like I grew up with a lot of Chinese influence without even realizing it, just because it was so normal. Like, we would go to the Chinese grocery store and we would make wontons together and, you know, stuff like that. You know, we got Chinese New Year off for school because there's such a big Chinese population. Also highlighting with a Face Shop highlighter. But as I've gone to college, I've gotten to get to know a lot more Koreans and learn what it even means to be Korean American. I literally didn't grow up around any Korean Americans until college. Like high school, there was one other Korean girl, and we never went to a Korean church. Well, we did, but I was like an infant. So it's been really cool getting to know what it means to be Korean. I would say it's really hard. Like, I don't ever want to choose one and say that, like, oh, I feel more Korean or more Chinese, and just kind of ignore the other one. But I would say they came into my lives at very different points in time, just because of the environment I was in and the people I was around. But I would say they're both equally valuable to me, and you know, my parents are both equally valuable to me, and their different influences on me personality wise and culturally are both really important and play, I think, equally heavy roles. So I would say I'm pretty even split, as boring of an answer as that is. Oh, whoops, I forgot my lip color. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm just using Siren by Revlon. Okay, I first discovered this lipstick because Jen M talked about it when she was like a college student. So thanks, Jen. Okay, now here's the final look that I'm sporting today, even though it is literally 5 p.m. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed just hearing my responses to these questions and kind of getting ready with me today. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this series, as well as leave some comments down below. Just your thoughts on, are you Asian American? What's your experience? Are you minority, immigrant, child of immigrants? Let me know. Love to hear about you guys. And again, let me know if you do this tag. You are all tagged. But yes, thank you guys so much for watching. I love you all. Jesus loves you, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.